Welcome back to Arkansas basketball recap. That show that recaps every Arkansas basketball game. The commitment level's high here. I mean, did we do it right after the game? No, it was late. I had to watch the game a little bit later. We're doing it though. And if it wasn't for the commitment to doing every game, you know, you might skip this one. It's pretty depressing. As Arkansas falls to the Ole Miss Rebels, and there's just something that's just like horrible about that. Maybe we can get into that. We fall 73 to 66. I mean, hey, they're ranked number 23. You're unranked, but you lost at home to Ole Miss. And I'm sorry, like this show is probably not going to be very positive today. That's the way it is. Maybe we'll find a couple silver linings or something. I usually am the one that's like trying to like find some optimism
I'm sorry,
because
it's not a good sign when you're starting out pessimistic.
but dude, I just can't stomach Ole Miss being better at basketball than our look, man. Like you're not it's not supposed to be that way. Ole Miss is not a better basketball program than Arkansas. And it's Oxford, Mississippi, dude. Like I it sucks. And the thing is like it's not like, oh man, just have like way better players. No. Like it's not that. It's not like they're like way more talented or something like that. We just came out there and like look, okay, like the Kentucky fans. I mean, it's so good. It's so good that Kentucky lost. So that there's not like that. Maybe that will, you know, reduce the level of told you so-ness. And I'm not saying I believe your I told you so entirely, but I will say this: like this offense is like really frustrating to watch. Um, against good teams. We have such good athletes that against like far inferior teams, you just like take dudes off the dribble, throw up alley oops, and like it's kind of fun. Against teams like with similar athletes, or at least like SEC quality athletes that are well coached. Like we might have better athletes than you, but that are running like a defensive system. And Ole Miss is a good defensive team. That's what they do. They weren't going to score 100 points or anything. That's not what they do. They hold you down, and man, they held us down. And when this team is faced with good defensive teams, which Ole Miss is, you see just like well, or you don't see is the problem. I don't know what you're trying to do. Like that's what makes the offense frustrating to watch. Like yeah, I think I saw screens being set when they were playing zone. Like when you can use like a pick and roll or something, or just like a screen and get some downhill action. Teams in zone or something. Well, I
Hmm.
don't even know what's going on. I just the inability to get like quality looks, and we got some quality looks and just missed them and stuff, but like not consistently. I just wish I knew what it is that we're trying to do on some of this stuff other than just like go one on one or whatever. Here's a stat, dude, and then I'll hear your thoughts. And I know, and I've got thoughts on the defense too. I didn't think the defense was great, but it's not my main concern because I think a lot of a couple of the things I saw on the defensive end are like fixable.
Hmm.
But dude, okay, Jonas Adu scores 2 points in this game. Okay, and then like, you might be like, okay, well, is that a big deal? Well, they came from the free throw line, and it wasn't that. And this is my frustration. He took zero shots. Jonas Adu was 0 of 0 from the floor because he shot free throws and scored. No attempts. Now, you I don't know if that's even on him. Like I don't like what are we doing?
Well, that's the thing I was going to point out too. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different places you could go, but ultimately, yeah, the reason this game is so disappointing is if you look at the stats, the stats are all almost even, all the way down, with the exception of efficiency. You know what I mean? Like it's very similar. It's not like the Tennessee game that was like lopsided in obvious departments that were like, well, there's why you lost. You gave them literally a third more chances to shoot the ball than you got. We actually got more shots up than they did
Mhm.
in this game. I think it was like I think we got like 7 or 6 more shots than they did.
Nine.
Um,
See, they went 23 of 50. We went 22 of 59. Got nine more
yeah,
shots, and then basically even on the boards. I mean, the rebounding battle was 35, 36.
the fouls were even-ish. The rebounds were even-ish.
Neither team turned the ball over very
The
much. Oh,
turnovers are crazy low. Like, I mean, dude, if you get
5 and 6.
6 turnovers in a game, like that's, but the difference is they were more efficient. I mean, their 3-point shooting was almost twice our percentage,
Mhm.
even though we took more, which is that's not what you want. And their overall field goal percentage was better than ours. And so it's just we're not taking good shots. We're taking harder shots and we're making less of them. And um and the defense isn't the total issue, but I mean, I remember saying this a little bit about one of our, it's weird because it actually does remind me of last year's Arkansas team a little bit too. And I
Oh, dude,
don't sense this.
it reminds me way too much of not necessarily last year's Musselman teams in general. Where also I'm like, do you remember we used to do this? It used to drive me nuts. Like you be up like four with like 5 minutes left, and he'd take the air out of the ball, and like
Mhm.
go and he'd be like, "Come over here," and they go dribble the ball over to the to the corner there by the bench, and then just like wind the shot clock down, and then it's just like Mason Jones or Note or whatever, just going, "All right." And then I'm just gonna go one on one. The difference is, and by the way, that was like kind of like pretty boring, frustrating basketball to watch because like a lot of times Eric Musselman's offense was it wasn't very sexy. Like you're like, what are you
Mhm.
doing? Because his was predicated on FTAs. So like free throws attempted was like the most important stat to Eric Musselman. And we shot some free throws this game, but one of the differences between like the Eric Musselman strategy and what we're doing too is we're not attempting free throws at the rate that like Musselman teams did. Like we just like lived at the free throw line because those guards and the commentators were saying some of this stuff like Note and Mason Jones and those guys, uh, they were all the way to the basket, get the contact. Maybe you get an and one. Worst case scenario, you're going shooting two at the line. We got guys that can get into the paint, like guys like Boogie and DJ, kind of whenever they want, but they're not like looking for the contact in the same way. And yeah, the DJ's floater is great and Boogie's floater is great. I don't mind those shots, but when they're not going in, it's not the same result as like, well, at least I'm going to the line because most of the times you're not going to the line, you just missed.
No, that's true. I mean, Mason Jones and those guys definitely sought contact more, it seems like, than and you could
And I'm not even
you could
saying
almost
what
see it with Boogie a little bit because he's a little bit of a skinnier guy, but
I'm not
you
even
should
saying,
think that
dude. I'm not even
Wagner should
saying.
put his freaking shoulder into people. He's got the body for it.
Look, I'm not even saying which one is right or wrong. Like, there's if you can go in there and pop a floater and make that consistently, it's a great shot. And like, I'm not saying don't do that. Uh, and there's something annoying about a guy whose like only intention is to go get fouled, and like maybe he makes it, maybe he doesn't, but he's just running into people and stuff. And you're like, yeah, I mean, there's something kind of about that. Um, but free throws attempted is one way to get points on the board. So like that was the strategy. I understood that like Musselman wanted free throws attempted because you're going to typically as a team shoot in the 70s from the free throw line. You're going to rack up that is a way to get points, and it was like a big way that his teams were getting points. So if you're not going to do that and you're like, we're still going to get in the lane, we just want to get in the lane and shoot floaters or hard twos or whatever, but we're at the rim, so it's okay. That's all fine. I don't care which way you do it. Um, but the end goal is points. And so, like, if free throws attempted is not the way that you're going to score, like, I do need to know which way you do plan on scoring. which is, and I'm not sure. And maybe you just say, hey, did we just had 2 games in a row where we didn't shoot the ball very well? And if we had just shot the ball a little better, it would be fine. And okay, fine. But I don't, I want to, one of the reasons you're not shooting the, you didn't shoot the ball well the last 2 games is, and this is subtle differences, but is because the looks aren't great. I mean, we shot a lot of threes this game, but they weren't like they're not the same. They're not like high quality threes. A couple of them were, but we shot a lot of tough ones off the dribble, step backs, stuff like that. Those are lower percentage shots. A lot of pull, even our twos, a lot of pull up mid range twos, which I love. Boogie Flan's pull up shot, but it wasn't going in. There's a subtle difference between the kind of shot that your team will shoot and shoot 45% and the shot that your team will shoot and you'll shoot 37%. Like the differences between those two shots is like very small, but like very important.
And the thing I was gonna say, I think, but I remember saying this about some of the Muslim teams is, they don't really. This team right now doesn't do anything well. Like they don't have a like Kentucky to use them as an example because obviously they're both teams are sort of both fan bases are sort of watching each other. Kentucky doesn't play defense well, but they shoot well. We
Yeah.
know what they're trying to do. They have an identity. Their identity is we score and we're going
Yeah.
to score more points than you. And they're doing that well. You know what I mean? Like you could argue if you're somebody that doesn't like flashy shooting and you prefer gritty, hard-nosed, stick your face in their defense. Well, that's not Kentucky's game. That's, go watch Auburn, or maybe go watch Tennessee. That's what their identity is. And by the way, those teams have identities too. Their identities are we start with defense, we start with getting you off your spot, making your team uncomfortable. We think we can elbow you more than you can us, and you're not going to like it as much as we do. And like I said, so they have an identity. Kentucky has one too. And like I said, that's helping them. Like they go out there, they know what they're trying to do. They're like, we're going to get shots up. We've got a green light to chuck threes, and sometimes they take a bunch of stupid threes that like you're like when they're not going in, you look foolish. It's because you're shooting guarded snap of the wrist early in the shot clock threes, and did I say twos a second ago? I always say
Look,
twos
just
for
hit
threes
threes.
sometimes,
Just hit threes,
but
I think.
um, because of that's what we always play pickup with. But but Kentucky, at least it's like, well, you know what you're trying to do. You know, the Kentucky fan base knows what their team is. This team, they don't shoot threes well. They shoot them okay. They don't play defense great. They play it okay. They don't really have that. I mean, it's like, I mean, what I guess they have an okay mid-range game, but it's not like we're just filling it up with mid-range shots.
The
So
two things that we do well are, and this is just like the rankings would say this, is we block shots well. I think we're like in the top 10 in the country in block shots per game. So like we block shots well, which is good, I guess. Like, okay. Um, and the other thing that we do well is that even though those block shots, like that is most of the time like secondary, like it's like help side defense. We just have athletic guys and long guys, so whatever.
Well,
Um,
and I'm guessing like so the thing about that stat that I don't like is I have a feeling if you look at field goals attempted against us, that we would also that those two things would be correlated. Like you have the most blocks, you probably have not. I'm not saying the most, but you're probably. I'm guessing we're in the top half of field goals attempted against us, which means, yeah, you're going to get more, you're going to be in higher percentage of blocks if teams are putting up more shots against you. They're not putting up as many shots against Florida and Tennessee because they're rebounding the ball. And
yeah,
by the way,
yeah,
you're not getting the shot. Like, yeah, if a team shoots on average each game, 7 more shots on your team, that's 7 more opportunities for a weak side block.
yeah.
And so if you
I
have
think
2 more blocks
our
than any other team, it's like who
yeah,
cares?
I think our defensive efficiency rate. I haven't looked, but like again, a little bit, but like I think it's still fairly. I think it's fairly good. Um, it, the defense like is fine. Like I'm not saying that we're great or whatever, and then you have lapses with that, like where like kind of crazy stuff happens, where you're like, what happened? Because our pick and roll
Crazy stuff
coverage is still,
like guys every single player on the floor dribbling around every single other player on the floor. Like it
yeah,
wasn't
and
just
it's
one
weird,
guy.
and it doesn't happen all the time. It's just like you have these random times where it happens, and you're like, what the heck happened there? Uh, but yeah, you're so you have some of that. The and that stuff is frustrating. It's like the mistakes are like on the defensive end are like super obvious. It's not like just like consistent all game long bad defense. They're just like period. There's just like lapses on possessions, and the next thing you know, someone's getting a layup or a dunk, and you're just like, I don't know what, like who didn't switch. Our pick and roll coverage still is like like it's not great, but whatever. Like our ball pressure is really good, and so like I think that covers up a lot of that stuff. The other thing I would say that
I mean,
Arkansas
it's
does
not, dude. It's not that good. They five turnovers.
well. Ole Miss
Like
doesn't turn the
most,
ball over. They just don't.
you
They
know,
just
most
don't.
teams turn the ball over 5 times without any defense. They just dribble it off their foot. Like
Yeah.
most teams will have 3 or 4 unforced turnovers where the guy cuts the wrong way and they throw it out of bounds behind them. They
I
dribble
th
it off
I
their
wanna
foot.
did I want to say that Ole Miss has the least amount of turnovers in the SEC. Like that's like sort of their thing is they don't turn the ball over. And this goes to the thing that Arkansas does do well. Is Arkansas is good in transition. Like so, like they want things to be sped up, and because in a half court they're not great. Like and so they want,
I mean,
but if you don't,
maybe
but
is
if you
that
don't get
explicit? Because I don't see that. Like, I mean, I remember with Musselman a couple of those teams, especially with the team, when we had the three young freshman phenoms, and they really couldn't shoot the ball well, so we had to score at the rim. Those guys, dude, we would have like 19 turnovers on some teams. Like they would
oh no,
they would
I'm not saying that we turn teams over great. I'm saying we are good in transit when we score when we get turnovers. Like so,
but we're not
Arkansas.
getting
No,
in transition that much.
right. This is what I'm saying. This is the problem. So like
How do you get in
Arkansas's
transition without without getting turning the ball over or rebounding?
correct. So Arkansas, when they get opportunities in transition, is very good at scoring in transition because those guards, we have guys that can finish at the rim. We have guys that can go above the rim in transition. All those kind of things, right? And so if
I mean,
Arkansas is out,
I might be wrong, but I feel like every team in the SEC is good in transition. I feel like good in transition is like saying like, yeah, when the ball's in the open court and the defense isn't set and you're the offensive player, so you have the advantage, and these guys are good at finishing, all of them. I feel like every team is good in transition.
I mean,
Like you have the advantage in transition. If you throw the ball up and you're speeding down the court and the defense isn't set, like oftentimes every team scores. Like I don't know if that's a strength of this team or not. Like I'm talking about, I don't know if it's a particular strength. I don't know if I would say Arkansas is better than any other team in the SEC at scoring in transition.
I think they're better than Ole Miss. I saw Ole Miss missing stuff at the rim that I don't think we miss. But we could have got to be worse. I mean, I saw the defensive breakdowns and them just straight blow layups. But the what I'm saying is, if your if your half court offense is clunky, which Arkansas is, what you want to do is get up and down. Some teams don't want to go up and down in transition. That's not what they're trying to do. Like they want to go run 20 seconds off the shot clock. They're running a set offense, and then they're going to get like the look they want. Arkansas is not trying to do that. Like, that is not what they want to do. Like they want to speed you up and like to play faster. Um, and we did not get to do that at all in this game, and that's why the offense was so boring, like to watch because that's not how we want to score. It's not how we're good at scoring. Ole Miss wants to do that, dude. I mean, they were fine with it. Like they wanted to bring the ball down. Even you saw it, like they
Yeah,
want to
no,
run.
that is what they do. They run an offense.
Yeah, mm,
You know about running offenses? That's what they do. They run an offense. They want to get an offense set and run it
yeah.
that they practiced a lot. And I mean, dude, I mean, we should have come to this a lot sooner, I guess, because we're kind of like talking about stuff that maybe is more for the end of the podcast because it's all the nitty gritty stuff. But I think the problem is exactly what I identified as the problem from like the very beginning, the first 3 or 4 games of the season, which is the post game. And the
I
reason
don't think
we're
we're
not,
running any post game. I don't even know. Like I can't. This is the thing. I can't even blame our post players. Like when you take no shots. Like I don't even know. We're not. We're obviously not running anything to even try to get you the ball.
maybe, I mean, I don't know if that's the case, or I don't know if Adu is still like not healthy and they just don't want to like say it because, it gives the defense an advantage to scheme against him or something. But Brazil, Adu, and I mean, you can't really blame Big Z. He didn't even hardly play. He played
It
like what,
played
4 minutes or something.
4 minutes. Yeah.
It's like, but but the thing is, I mean, basketball's an old enough game and there's lots of ways to play it. But there's a reason that even in the high flying 3-point shooting, you know, game that Steph Curry has now created for us in the last 2 decades, um, there's still big guys in the NBA and there's still big guys in college basketball, and almost every team plays with a post. And it's because if you want to shoot threes, you need to make the defense be aware, afraid, and have to be concerned with what's happening away from the 3-point line. We've got guys that can shoot threes. I mean, I'm not saying we would be Kentucky. We're not going to be, that's not our going to be our identity is like, oh, we are, that team goes in there and they shoot 43s and they make, 18 of them.
Mhm.
But these guys can shoot. Boogie can shoot, Wagner can shoot, Nelly's starting to get his groove on. I mean, freaking Big Z can shoot. Um, we've got guys that if we get them good looks, we'll knock them down. You can't get good looks even first off, you can't if you can't go to a big man who can post up and or be in a tight pick and roll from the free throw line, if you can't make the defense have to scramble, think about, have it be a thorn in their consciousness, in their subconscious about what's happening down there in the paint, because somebody's going to score down there, other than just the guy that's in front of me is going to try to dribble in there and throw something up over my head. And not only do I have him in front of me, but I also have a guy behind me who can block that. Um, you're just not going to get as many looks because there is something about, I mean, that is one way to get 3-pointers. One way to get good looks at the 3-point line is to have your guard collapse the defense with the dribble drive. And then another way is to dump it down to the post player. In my opinion, the reason why you want to dump it down to the post player, I mean, you want to do both, obviously, but the passes that come from dumping it to the post player, letting him do a back down dribble, and everybody's like, everybody has to move away from their guy, and then you can try to get it out and swing it around and find the open man. Is those passes are going to be they're more likely over the course of the whole season. You're going to be able to hit the shooting pocket better with those kind of passes. It's like the way the game is sort of designed to be played. Whereas when a guy dribble drives, it's it's jazz. You don't know where he's going. When Boogie and Wagner are going in there, you don't know if they're going floater. You don't know if they're going reverse. You don't know if they're going to just get around the corner and take it right to the side they're going in. You don't know if they're going left. You don't know if they're going right. And as a person, like we play the way Adu plays, as far as we play off the ball. We're not the guy with the ball in his hands dribble driving. We're trying to figure out, does he need a screen? Should I back out so my man, so I'm ready for the jump shot because he's trying to drive? Should I seal my guy because he's coming around? Like you're trying to figure out what the guy with the ball is doing. And it's a much, much more mistake prone. You're as a big man or even as a 3-point guy, you're standing out there, you're like, I'm open, but he's not looking at me. Should I cut now? Should I go for the rebound? Is he going to put that up? Is as soon as I vacate this spot, is the ball going to come flying over here and he's going to look at me like, oh, dude, what are you doing? I broke down the defense. You're not there. But if I don't, and he throws up the floater. Now I'm standing here like an asshole, not rebounding. Like the downside to the dribble drive is much more mistake prone. It's much more jazz. It's just you don't know where the ball's coming from. The guy in the corner doesn't know if it's coming to him. The guy at the elbow doesn't know if it's coming to him. The guy in the post doesn't know what to do.
It does
It's
the
it's much less efficient way to get 3-pointers. The way that you get 3-pointers where it's like I know where I should be. When you start dump the ball down to the big guy and he starts backing guys down, you know what to do. You know what I mean? Like there's lanes to cut through that are obvious. If your guy turns his head, you back cut and hope that your big man dumps it down to you. If you're standing at the elbow and you see your guy look away, you or see your guy sink, you move to the corner and he can just pass it right to your shooting pocket. And the lack of ability to use the post for Arkansas right now, in my opinion, is the difference between that efficiency that you see there. You know what I mean? Like th- that, and I think that's one of the reasons that that game is so disappointing is Old Miss. I'm not saying they're not a good team. I think Chris Beard is a great coach. I think he's going to be great for Old Miss, and I think they got really lucky to have him through bad circumstances for him personally. And maybe he's a bad guy. I don't know, but he's going to. Old Miss is going to be good as long as Chris Beard is there. But that team, when you looked at them and you saw it even with the offense, was like I think that's one of the reasons like that they've got that they slow it down is he knows that's not that good a team yet. He
Yeah.
doesn't have that good of players yet. He's ringing out wins with this team, and it doesn't feel like Calipari is doing that with his team. And now this is kind of Calipari's, he's done this a lot where he lets his guys figure it out. He tries to put them out there and he likes to be a little bit hands off and be like, you're going to lose this game and you have to lose in order to learn how to win. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like, but it's not complete panic time. But in this SEC, we're in trouble. This is SOS time. We've scraped an iceberg. I don't know if it ripped through the whole hull yet, and this is definitely going down, but it's time to start sending out an SOS just in case because we got Florida coming in, or we're playing Florida next, and I mean when your hope when they play
Florida's better than Ole Miss.
and what I'm saying is you go down 3-0 in the SEC, that is a hole. It is so we've talked about this a million times at nauseum. It is going to be so hard to win any game in the SEC. Now you got to win three in a row just to be flush.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a problem. You know what I mean? So this game was a bummer to lose. And I mean, I'm not saying we can't beat Florida. All the teams are a little fickle right now, but I mean, if I'm a Kentucky fan, like I said, the reason I wouldn't talk crap about Kentucky at all right now is even though they lost to Georgia, is one, it's not clear how good Georgia is because yeah, they didn't have like they're low on the low end in the SEC, but the record isn't. But it's just because they didn't play very many people, so they didn't get very many opportunities. And Georgia, I mean, Kentucky obviously had a little bit of a dud of a game, and credit to Georgia.
Georgia plays in a way that I mean, every team's got stuff to figure out. Like maybe not Auburn; they might have figured everything out. But the Kentucky's problem is that uh, when teams get super physical with them, that doesn't go well for them. So that's what Clemson did to them. That's what Ohio State did, and that's what Georgia did. Georgia just said, "Hey, we're going to be super, super, super physical." For whatever reason, Florida was like, "Let's have a shootout," and that's a bad idea to do with Kentucky. That's a terrible strategy, which is weird because Florida can rebound the ball and plays defense well and everything. But that game, they just said, "Let's just roll it out there and jack shots up, boys," and that's how they played that game. So but I do agree with you that like they got a much easier problem to solve, I think, which is like because they have an identity. You gotta get a little tougher. You can't let teams like Georgia, who are Georgia's not a bad team, but Georgia said, "Hey, do you like playing physical? Because that's how we're gonna play, and you have to love it."
Well, and
But
I
here's the
would
thing,
say
dude. I mean, here we give a defense of the dribble drive. I agree with everything you said about like that you're gonna have uh, more accurate passing uh, from a post, and it's easier to know like from a post up. It's easier to know like where to go, like where the open like, just fall into those where you go wherever the help came from, or like if you're in the post and you get the ball and the help comes down, you put that ball wherever that came from. Right, like it's just you just fill in the gap. You're like, oh, the help came from there. It goes there. The thing about the dribble
there's
drive,
a 45-degree immediate angle of opportunity. There's the
yeah,
corner to the top, And those guys can, if their guys sag at all, their guys can drive
Yeah.
for a dump down, give and go, or you can pass to them and they can go back and forth.
Yeah.
It's just a much more cleaner offense. You've got to be very, very connected as a team and like working well together, which I don't think our guys are. Now, I don't sense a lot of animosity yet or acrimony. I might be wrong about that. These guys may hate each other. I don't know, but I don't sense that like I did when Musselman. It seemed like there was a lot of stuff going on in that last season, but these guys don't seem connected. They don't seem like they know where like the other guy's going. And and maybe that's what Cal's trying to do. He's trying to get them all where they connect and he's letting them play through it. But what I'm saying is for guys that aren't, unless you have really, really smart, intuitive basketball players, uh, it's better. I mean, this is why, like, if you go back to like high school or even younger, like you're not going to try to get high school kids or younger than that. You're going to try to get them in a system where you're like, this is what we're doing, so you don't have your lack of knowledge, your ignorance of the game, and can be made up for by routine, repetition, and system. And I don't sense that these guys are and we said this before, even this is part of the problem on defense is we don't have the most like high IQ basketball players. And that sounds like a real insult, but I don't like they don't instinctively know just like the thing that you see with a guy like you know I mean, Djokovic, for an example, where you can just tell, like, I don't know how he knows where everyone is on the floor and exactly how to get them the ball all the time. And it's not, he doesn't think about it. His processor is working faster than everybody else's. And these guys like Brazil, I mean, he gives great energy, but a lot of times he just literally doesn't think about the fact that he needs like one step over and you're boxing that guy out. Right now, you're standing shoulder to shoulder with him. You know what I mean? It's like just get him behind you. And it's like so and we've talked about that before. So I would say for these guys particularly, like I think it would help a guy like Brazil a lot. He's a great player. I think he's got a good his attitude seems improved. He tries really hard. I think a system would help that guy score. You know what I mean? Like I don't
Yeah.
think you're going to see him just intuitively be in the right spot.
Now, this is the defense of the dribble drive. Um, the dribble drive is, if you can do it, is more creates more chaos because the dribble drive is so I can draw up a defensive scheme easier that says this is what we do when X player gets the ball in the post. Like I can draw that up, right? So like here's where the help's going to come. This guy's got like that kind of thing, and try to mitigate uh, the ability to say, look, they're going to try to do the oldest thing in the book. They're going to try to get the ball to the block, and then they're going to, and if the help comes, they're going to kick it out. So here's how we're going to counter that, and you could scheme that up. Dribble drive is just more, it creates more chaos. The dribble drive is like more unpredictable, right? So like it's you're going to have more reactionary defense when a guy is dribble driving because you don't know when he's going to do it, you don't know which side he's going to do it from, like all that kind of stuff. But you're right that like you have to. It's a trickier thing to do offensively. Now it can be like super super effective, like I said, because if you're coming off a screen or whatever and you get downhill and help has the you don't. It's harder to scheme against. Just have a defensive plan for it because it can be coming from anywhere on the floor. Um, but uh, I don't see us doing either of those things. So like we do a lot of dribble drive, but it's not as though we do a lot of dribble drive and kick. We don't really. Like that's not so I agree with you that we need to just get the ball in the post just to try to score down there some. But yes, I'd also like to like get open outside looks from the ball going to the post first, which we obviously don't do. Uh, but even talking about wanting to do that, that's not like instead of the thing that we're doing, which is driving and kicking, because I don't think we're doing a lot of driving and kicking either.
They're doing a little bit of it, but this is the thing is these players, none of these players, and it's not a criticism. I haven't seen a lot of these. There's a lot of these guys don't exist. This is why they're so special when you get a really good point guard that can see the floor and has the ability to execute a pass because those are two different skills. And I don't see, even though Boogie Flan's efficiency is great, I mean, I'm perfectly happy with him as a point guard, but it doesn't change the fact that we don't seem to have a guy that is like a brilliant passer, and that's because they're rare. And so when our dribble drives, when they do kick, they're not kicking to an advantage, and that's because most of the
Well,
times,
you're just kind of
if a
getting
team,
yourself. It's more like getting yourself out of a jam.
yeah, it's drive, and when the help guy comes over, you like they kind of turn their back and lob it back over the defender to the outside, and it's like that's there's no advantage. You know what I mean? So, um, yeah, I mean,
There was another thing that was weird too, because like the thing that was a bummer about this game is first couple of minutes of this game, I thought we were about to blow Ole Miss out. Like I thought it was about to go down, dude. Like when we were up 10-1, I was like, dude, is this one of those? It felt like it was going to be one of those games. Like we're going to win this game by 28. Like that. Like they're ups. They didn't like that Tennessee thing. We're at home. We're about to just smack some people around, out athlete these dudes. And then Nelly was like, dude, let me knock down three threes. I'm gonna have 11 points in the first half or whatever. And and you're like, here it is, dude. This is what I'm talking about. Nelly's coming to play now. Like where like his wrist feeling snappy, like because like I need that in my life. And Nelly was hot, dude. Like he knocked down three threes in a row, right? I mean, like it was 3 for 3 once he's and the in those
so
situations,
was my daughter on Monday, but
there you go.
whatever.
But here's the thing, though. Like in a situation like that, it's like, and then he didn't like didn't get the ball again that much. Like, where's the identifying? Like, dude, run some stuff. Like you want to like here's how you can take advantage of stuff. Like if a dude just like is hot like that, you're like, dude, Nelly's scoring right now. Let's give him the ball. Let's get him in some whatever dribble handoffs, whatever you got to do, and make the defense start like because the defense is gonna be like not liking him having the ball at that moment. You know, they're gonna like make them go over these screens and like and all that kind of stuff and even if it doesn't result in him the hot hand, which is who you want to have the ball in those situations, even if he doesn't get looks, like that is how you get other guys looks because the defense is like, dude, that guy's not missing right now.
They're
So
jumping out a little harder at him.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't feel like we did that either. You're like, hey, get him the ball. Like give him the ball and let like let's run the offense through him right now because obviously they're gonna be reacting to that. So if you can get him open looks, even better. But if you don't, you're still probably gonna have guys overplaying it, like having to do things. Like I said, they were going under all the screens, like because they didn't care if we shot. But I bet you they wouldn't in that moment in the game with Nelly.
Hmm. Well, let me say this about real quick because I'm going to criticize Cal, and but first, just to address like what's lost, and I like I said, I enjoy like I'm actually really enjoying this like rivalry that because I think this could be a long term rivalry. I mean, we'll just see if Cal completely burns out here, and and Mark Pope is like the next coming of uh John Wooden or something, then it won't be. It'll just be Kentucky's Kentucky and Arkansas's beleaguered Arkansas. But if it ends up being competitive, which I still think it will be, I mean, I'm talking about over the course of the next 3 or 4 years, it is a lot of fun to have this back and forth with the Kentucky franchise. But and to put it in context, like Kentucky fans, and it's fine, but like the reality of the situation, I mean, they're delusional if they think Calipari's terrible and that Mark Pope, they knew that he was going to be better. What actually happened there is they didn't want Mark Pope. They wanted everybody else first, and they couldn't get them. And they might have gotten really fortunate that everybody else didn't go there because Mark Pope might be really good, and he does seem really motivated, and he is, an ex-player that loves the job. And it might end up being the best thing for them in the world that they didn't overpay for the Connecticut coach who
Or
may, isn't
Get Billy Donovan or
yeah, or
whatever.
Billy Donovan. So, I mean, they might have accidentally through just circumstance just had ended up with somebody great. And and I still think that no matter what happens, even if Cal completely burns out here, it was still the right thing for Arkansas because Arkansas's context isn't the same as Kentucky. We've talked about this before. I mean, we were getting left with zero players. Arkansas isn't like Kentucky. We can't, people won't just come here because of the name on the jersey. We were building, our program was headed upwards. It was the right gamble. We may crap out hard. It's possible. That's what Kentucky is, fans want, and that's what they're saying. And they might be right, and they may end up getting the last laugh in this. It doesn't change the fact, even if he does crap out, it doesn't change the fact that when you were standing in front of that fork in the road and it was like, you can go try to get nobody because nobody would go to Kentucky. No one's coming to Arkansas. Probably not nobody, but you know what I'm saying? You're going to get somebody you're going to have to try to rebuild and get in players. And it was the right gamble. It was worth it. It was the right thing to do. We'll see if it works out. But uh even if it doesn't, it's still, like I said, hindsight is 2020. And at that time at the fork in the road, that was the right thing for Arkansas to do. And that being said, uh I am like I didn't like his press conference after the Tennessee game. Um Now he was right in that, sure, they shot bad. They missed a lot of open shots that they should make. And it's like, what are you going to do? Tennessee's defense was so good. They made him miss free throws and they made him miss, open threes. But now I don't know what happened in the Florida locker room after that Kentucky loss, but because Kentucky scored what did they score? 110?
106, 107, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. That's embarrassing. Even if it's a close game, I don't care if you score 105. If you let the other team score 106, that's embarrassing. That's an embarrassing defensive performance in college basketball. And I don't care how good the team is. You got to hold teams under 100. And I don't know what happened in that locker room, but I know what happened the next time they came out. You know what I mean? Their coach didn't go over there and go, well, I mean, hey, Kentucky's just awesome. And what are you going to do? They're going to hit all those shots with our hands up in their face. Then I don't think that's bad defense. They freaking smacked Tennessee, by the way, a team that we lost to by 25 points. Like I've never seen a number. I don't know if I've ever seen a number one team in the country get smacked like that. I mean, they looked pathetic. Florida was like, we are not going to let this happen. And if you imagine Florida, they're going into Kentucky and they lose, and now they're going, oh great, now we have the number one team in the country that just smacked down Arkansas by 25 points coming in. They have a good opportunity to do exactly what we did and just lose. And it's like, they didn't. They came out and they're like, we are not going down in our house. I don't care if you're the number one team in the country or how good you're playing. And they bitch slapped them. We did. We came out. If I don't know what I would have rather Kentucky been, Calipari come out and go, I don't care about the missed shots. You miss shots sometimes. You know what you can control? Effort, rebounding, focus, engagement. I mean, maybe he was. Maybe he's not in the media. Maybe that's not his style, but it sure didn't look like it. They didn't have focus, energy, any of that. Like those guys, you just like you're going down, you're in your house, you have to win this game. He needs to be up in their ass about rebounding and stuff. And with like a do, again, I don't know what they're doing with not letting him score or not focusing on him, but even his rebounding. Now, it's not bad, but he's 7 foot tall. He's played 17 minutes. He's standing in the position where balls just fall into your hands, especially when you're 7 foot tall. He has 5 rebounds. It's like, okay, yeah, if he played the whole game, he'd have 10 rebounds. 10 rebounds is nothing to sneeze at. But not if you're a 7 foot guy giving maximum effort and you're standing in the paint the whole time. Dude, you know what I mean? It's like if you're not going to rebound or score or pass the ball, like what are we even doing here? And I mean, even at least Brazil, who played a similar amount of minutes, I think he played 20 minutes, but he at least had more. He had 7 rebounds, which is, if like, okay, if you play the whole game, you're gonna have 14. That's better. But like, if you're 7 foot tall and you're giving maximum effort and you're standing in the paint the whole game, I want you. It's crazy to not have a putback. I don't care if
Yeah.
they're not focusing on you at all.
Yeah.
You don't have a putback? Like you don't have a get that guy out of here, give me that ball and dunk it back in there. What are we doing? You're not trying hard enough. I'm sorry. And like and he's the one guy I can't read, but I don't know if there's something going on and maybe he's hurt or something. But I'm sorry about that, guys. That's the school calling me saying probably that they're letting out even earlier for the snow. But that's my rant. Like I want Calipari to make those guys play with more effort and more desperation. Like, hey, that team has enough talent, and they still do, to win a national championship. But they're not a good team in the SEC right now. Now maybe they're a good team in the in the Sun Belt or
No,
something like
no,
that.
they're not. They're not a good. They're not good right now. They have good players. Like like Arkansas has lots of good players, but we're not playing well right now.
Yeah, you need to go. I can
I do
see
need
you
to
looking.
go.
Yeah, I figured you did. All right. Well, I'm sorry to end on that rant, but to be glib about it, I still say Calipari. I don't think he loves the color red, just as a style thing. Never seen it. And our losses are directly correlated with how much red he wears. Get that pink crap out of here. Put on some freaking bright red jacket. I saw you do it at Kentucky. You were wearing blue polos all the time and blue zip ups. I need a bright crimson red. When we lost to Illinois, he had not a stitch of red, not a red in his jacket, not a red in his kerchief. He could have been coaching for any team in the world. And uh, then all of our other losses, if you go look at him, he's like dashes of red or pink. Get some red on, have some pride in the school. You're at Arkansas now. I want to see a freaking hog nose on your face and you doing the woo pig suey, even though I know it's, if you're not a part of this, like from here, it's embarrassing, but like I'm joking, but I'm also not joking with the fact that I want to see you be a hog. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I don't like this very, very light dashes of red here and there. I want to see you in red pants with a red shirt, with a red jacket, with a freaking one of those cutout hogs running on my head. You know what I mean? Because it kind of seems like you're like kind of like, I don't really like these colors or something. Like I don't know what it is, but it's bothering me the clothes he's wearing on the sideline, and then, like, and I know that doesn't really make any sense, but yeah, it's a signaling thing that's hitting my monkey brain, and I'm like, get some red on.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Or dude, if you're gonna wear suits, and you're like, hey, the red suits look ridiculous. All right, fine. And you have to wear a black suit with a bright red tie and a bright red handkerchief. Like whatever. You can go black and red. That's fine.
Hmm.
All right. Yep, I do gotta go. But we'll leave it there. We'll be back this weekend. Talk about the Florida game. Hey, these guys, I mean, they can do it. Like I said, not bad players. They got plenty of talent. They just gotta, hey, call a players meeting, have a come to Jesus moment, get out there and play hard, man. And you know, it's not a personnel issue, and
No, they
so
got to go
you
watch
can
the
do it.
second half of the Michigan game and figure out what they were doing because like that's the only stretch where they played like I think they should play is the
Yeah,
second half of the Michigan game.
yeah,
So,
yeah. All right,
all right,
man.
dude. See ya.
We'll see you. Bye.